Cool. Hey guys. So I'm Lukáš. I'm Chief Product Officer at Twista. We are a Czech-based fintech working out of Prague. And I would like to talk to you about one of my hobbies. One is writing orchestral music, and the second one is writing Python and hacking people, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. And imagine it's a lovely Saturday morning, and your whole customer database just leaked. And it would be a huge PR and these days probably GDPR nightmare. And imagine that it was just one person sending what just email and you are done. This is something I was actually able to achieve at our company because I got access to all of these sorts of accounts from LastPass to Facebook to GitHub to Slack, and I will be talking about these examples. Why am I doing this? There are two versions. The official one is, trying to protect our company. Then there's the truth, which is that I wanted to hack, and I didn't want to end up in jail. So I found a legal way of doing this. Just a quick disclaimer: this is not a manual for hacking anyone. So please don't do these things. And let's get to the stories. And this is the first one that I actually started with a couple of years ago now. And I just thought to myself, how hard can it be to gain access to someone's Facebook account? And I created, Seznam is actually our Google in Czech Republic. It's bigger than Google. I think we're the only country where Google has not, doesn't have the majority. So I registered some random email pretending to be one of my colleagues. I created an email that's saying video the DJs of today's age, and there was something like, hey, have you seen this funny video, and link pointing to Facebook, obviously, right? You click on the link, you get to the Facebook, nothing sets you off, everything is just fine. Except the Facebook is not Facebook. No one notices that because everyone is seeing Facebook logo, everything works fine, and it's on Facebook. And what it got me is actually 70% people at the time, and we were just 17 people at the time, they gave me their password to the Facebook account, which was scary because it was just simple email, simple landing page that I coded in like 10 minutes probably. And I got 70% of the passwords. And it inspired me to aim at bigger goals. Another example, another story is LastPass. Do you know LastPass? Has anyone using LastPass? Cool, most of the guys. For those who don't, it's a simple password manager. And it allows you to have really long passwords, and the passwords can be different for every site, every app that you use, which is the best way to protect yourself. The worst is, and this is something most of my colleagues were doing, they had like 3 passwords they are using everywhere. And when one password gets leaked, you are screwed. So let's go to the LastPass. Another email, LastPass, your CEO, Michal, is sharing something with you on LastPass. You click on it, and I got a little bit more sophisticated in here because you can see the URL parameter ACC = 1. It pre-filled the email of the user. So as you're used to, you just input your password, and the email is pre-filled, so you just enter password to accept the invitation from your CEO. Except, again, the LastPass isn't LastPass. And you are screwed because your password was sent to bad Mr. Hacker. And I bought a nice domain, login-lastpass.com, which was free. And it was as simple as that. A little bit about Python for these kind of attacks. I found a simple email spoofer, literally called simple email spoofer. It was written in Python 2.7. I think it's still only 2.7 till these days, so I did some fork of it to support 3.5, I think, at the time. And nice thing about Python and about this script is that it had a lot of arguments. I just extended it. I love custom args for Python, and I just extended it. And I wrote a simple script to spoof these emails and personalize them to pre-fill the user ID, pre-fill the email, for the user not to be aware of anything. Unfortunately, there was no support for images in the emails, so I just forked it again, and with a couple lines of code, I put all the images for those emails to be beautiful. And what really scared me is that I got 10 people. And 10 people in our company, it meant 10 master passwords. That in turn meant 210 passwords to all their online services, 7 internet banking credentials, and then credit cards. And I got really, really scared. And one of the things I really enjoyed is one of my colleagues, after the attack, he approached me and he told me, hey, wow, I thought that I'm aware of all that stuff because I'm watching all the videos that the Czech banks are putting on the internet. But obviously I'm not. I just thought that I know about phishing and everything, but when it happens to you, you don't even notice it. And the banks in Czech Republic, I think they're doing a great job of explaining like what the phishing is, but they are explaining it in like cute animated videos, which is not like someone stealing 100,000 euros from your bank account. But they're doing a fine job. And another example, we use Slack at our company, and I created an email that you need to confirm your email address on Slack, which I think Slack doesn't do anything like that. But I just thought to myself, hey, let's try that. And I guess by now you know the story, what happened. And what I again love about Python is that there are libraries and wrappers for APIs and for everything. And what I was able to do, I just installed with pip Slack client, and I just downloaded the whole Slack history of all the channels, all the conversations happening on Slack. And it's like a couple of minutes of work probably, and imagine what you can do with that. If you can download all conversations happening in the company, like hundreds of thousands of messages, a lot of personal data, a lot of business-related data that you don't want someone to see. And for me, and again, why I love Python is that couple of lines of code and you can use Postgres. And you can use Postgres to populate it with all the conversations from Slack. And you can use NLTK or another library to do some natural language processing or some form of language analytics to scrape only the important information that you need. And again, for me, Python is really simple to do these things. One of the bad things about NLTK is that we speak Czech language, and as you saw in the Estonian natural language processing kit, the Estonian language is hard, and I think the Czech language is probably like 5 times harder. And not even Google, not even Microsoft, they don't support it with their tools, because Czech sucks. And what I've learned as well when I saw all those passwords is a thought that came to my head is, these password requirements, I guess you know all of them because most of the services use them, but does that really mean that those passwords are secure? It should, because only this like 8 characters long, 1 uppercase letter, 1 number or special symbol, it should mean they are secure. Because it gives you 3026 times 10 to the 15th of combinations. But imagine that your user has a favorite word, for example, weapon. And imagine that you tell to that user that he needs to have 1 uppercase letter. Where will that uppercase letter be? And imagine you tell him that it should have a number or a special symbol. Where it could be. And these are just the most common patterns all over the internet of what people are using, and from the huge number, 3026 times to the 10 to the 15th, you are down to 80 billion, and that's nothing that cannot be, when you have the hash of the password, or not even the hash password, it's nothing that's like not, it wouldn't take centuries to go through that with some GPU cloud rented in Amazon. But what I still have in my mind is, when I'm thinking about the best method for cryptanalysis, is the rubber hose cryptanalysis, if you know it. It's, on the left, that's usually what I have in mind as a Python guy. Let's build $1 million cluster to crack it. No good, it's 4096-bit RSA. When in the real world, it could be something like drag him and hit him with a $5 wrench until he tells you the password. So, in all those attacks, what I have in mind is that, it's not usually the tech way how you hack. It's usually the people you hack, which is the simplest way. Yeah, and $5 is a slightly less than $1 million. And another example, another story that's actually not about phishing, is about a friend of mine. He owns a fashion e-shop. I didn't want to put the name in there. They're doing something like 500 million Czech crowns in revenue, so it's quite a big fashion store in Czech Republic. I think one of the top 5 in Czech Republic. And I called him and asked him, hey, can I please play with your e-shop? Pretty please. And he told me that they take security pretty seriously, that they went through some penetration testing, and they are guiding the employees of what they should be aware of. But he gave me the chance to play with it. And one day later, I had admin access to everything, to order data, to customer data, to information about their profits and margins, which is the most sensitive kind of business data they have. But the worst for me was that I had access to all the customer data, so addresses, phones, what the people ordered, when they ordered it, everything. And here is your step-by-step guide to e-shop hacking. So the first thought I had in my head, let's find the admin panel URL. I need to know what kind of system they are using to be able to find some well-known vulnerabilities or play with it. So I wrote a script, again in Python, which is pretty simple. I just downloaded a list of top 100 admin CMS URLs, and I just wrote a script that iterated through them and tested if there is a password input in them. And I just printed to myself, there might be something to find what kind of system they're using. But I could have saved myself half an hour of the time, because in their robots.txt, I found out what kind of system they are using, and I registered for the eShop platform demo to see if I can find something in the demo that I could actually apply in the real world, in their real production environment. And I found out that there is a cross-site request forgery vulnerability. And if you're not sure what that means, it means that just by sending an email to some admin in their company, and for that person, just by opening that email, when this image loads, this image that's actually not an image, and it's just triggering a get request, I could create myself an admin. Just by sending an email and just by loading one image, you can have admin account in their eShop. So I thought about the plan for reconnaissance and execution to do that phishing email. But another thought occurred in my head. What if, just what if, those credentials I received for the demo platform, what if they worked in their admin? They worked. And well, what was unfortunate is that the only feature that was there was update articles. So I could have gone to the homepage and put there hey, you have been hacked by Mr. Badass Hacker. Fortunately, The update feature and the update article feature had Visivic editor that supported JavaScript. And their cookies, their admin login cookies, they were not HTTP only, so you could steal them with JavaScript. And sorry, this is JavaScript, not Python. I just used Firebase, and I implemented Firebase on their homepage, and I was basically stealing all the login cookies that were there. And I waited for the, I think it's somewhere in there, I was waiting for the admin cookie to appear. And it appeared. Just a couple hours later. So, as simple as that. Last three stories, last three examples that I tried over the last years. Do you know rubber ducky, the thing on the left? Have you ever heard of it? Cool, couple of guys. It's an interesting device. It looks like a USB flash drive, but it's actually a keyboard. And that nasty thing is emulating a USB keyboard, which is plug and play. You don't install drivers, you don't need to do anything. You just plug in your keyboard and you can type anything. And this thing has a microprocessor and SD card, and you can tell it what it should do. And what I did is I wrote a script, because most of our guys in the company are Windows guys. And I wrote a script to download all the XLS files and upload it to my FTP server. And what that keyboard essentially did was like, Windows R, CMD line, find all those XLS files. And just by plugging it in, not even launching anything, you can do really wonderful things. And I love to screw with my colleagues this way. It's always interesting to find new vectors that you can use to attack colleagues. So I'm just, hiring messengers, and I'm just delivering random stuff to our office, to specific people, to see what they would do. What I also found out is we all use two-factor authentication, which is great, except it isn't, because when you are stealing the password from the user, you can trigger the login request in the background, and the user accepts your login request, because the user thinks that he or she is logging into Google when in the background it's you logging in, and the user usually only rewrites the SMS code or anything. So the two-factor authentication is a great step for us to be secure, but nothing that cannot be phished, and it can be phished. And the last example is my video. And I bought like 5 USB drives, and I dropped them randomly in front of the office on the streets. And it contained a video like this. Videos usually don't have version 1.0, because this was not obviously a video. I think I called the USB drive something like USB Catherine to have some girl's name. I downloaded some random pictures from the party on the internet of a girl partying with the guys. In those photos there was also a video, my video, making you to open the video. And my colleagues were so nice. They wanted to find the owner of the USB drive. They wanted to see who's in the video, if it's someone they recognize from the building, so they can return the USB drive to that person. So they opened the video. And it actually opened a QuickTime player, and it started some, XXX rated video. But in the background, it added itself to the applications after the launch. It copied itself onto the this was for Mac. It copied itself onto the Mac, and it started a real-time keylogger. And at the time, there was a zero-day vulnerability that just by loading dynamic library in a command line, you get access to accessibility, where you can allow keyloggers to work. And you didn't even need the root password or the admin password to do that. It was there for a month, I think. So I used it, and I had a real-time keylogger using Firebase in the background, which was funny, because imagine that some of your colleagues put it in, they launch it, and then you can, in the real time in Firebase, see what they are typing, and you can just take the computer, put it next to theirs, and they can see what they are typing on your computer, which was funny. It was fun as hell. The next part, I would like to talk a little bit more about my workflow. So this is my secret workflow. I go to Google. I put in the query that I need, so something like Python make unique list. I'm not a developer by trade, so I just open the first link on Stack Overflow, I copy the line of code that suits me, and that's it. And what a lot of people forget, that the hackers doesn't have to be like hardcore hackers, like from the movies made 20 years ago, when you have like all those black and green screens, like 20 screens in front of them. It can be just me sitting in a coffee shop and doing some nasty stuff that I like to do. And why is Python my language of choice? I like it because of the syntax. It's simple, it's easy to read, it's easy to use a lot of examples. It's really simple to set up and deploy on Linux servers, on Mac, anywhere. It has a great support of libraries. I love the pip and virtual environment. I love everything that's in stdlib. Love the libraries like Request, Beautiful Soup, Celery. I like that it's versatile, because you can use it for web apps, you can use Django as we do at Wisto, you can use Flask as I do in simple projects that I do. You can use it for automation and scraping, and using a request, using Celery to put something in the queue, to process in the background. Or you can use Beautiful Soup to parse, like you saw the example of parsing the HTML page. It's super easy. Or for data science stuff. We, for example, use Jupyter, even I do, for some internal audit stuff, because we are fintech, we are a finance company. We need to do audits, unfortunately. And Jupyter, Pandas, NumPy, they're super useful, super great tools that we use a lot to do all sorts of things. That's just a Jupyter example that I really like Jupyter to mess with stuff, mess with the data. It's really flexible. And just quickly about anatomy of an attack and how I got through with it. I always start at the end, so I always start at the end of what I want to achieve, what's my end game. I do the reconnaissance, where I also select the right tools, what's the right vector that I can attack with, what's the environment, how should it work, what should be the user journey. I do the development and testing, and then thanks to Firebase and other real-time analytics platforms, I execute it, I learn, and when I see that my users are not converting, I update the example to make it better, to make it more believable, for the Facebook example you saw that I didn't even use SSL certificate, so it was just HTTP, which now would appear like no secure. At the time it was no secure. So I would just put let's encrypt or something in there, and I would just iterate it to achieve higher conversion rate. As a product guy and as a marketer, our goal is when you have the same or almost the same amount of users, you want more of the users to believe in your product and to buy in. And that's exactly the same goal that I have in mind for my hacking experiments. And what I try to do with my experiments is to deliver the ultimate user experience. Because a lot of web apps, they forget the ultimate user experience. Just simple examples is when you forget the password, you click on, hey, I have forgotten the password, and decide, again, you need to retype your email. Why should you do that if you typed it in the first place? All those small examples that are not the best for user experience, I try to use them here. I also try to hijack our autopilot, because we work on autopilot, or otherwise we would go mad. And it's a great thing when you're an attacker, because imagine that your colleague wakes up at like 5 a.m. in the morning. he opens email and he's something like, hey, you are due this amount of money, and if you don't pay in 1 day, you will get a fee or something, which is another hack I did. But when you are running on autopilot, you don't think about it. You just, you receive a notification, you click on it, and you get scared because there is something waiting for you. And in that case, in that 5 a.m. in the morning, that's a bit of a cheating, but what I do with the passwords, when the user enters the password, I always tell the user, sorry, this is a bad password that doesn't work. And what I see in a behavior, that the user is trying to use all those known passwords, like those 5 passwords he has. And that's exactly what my colleague did at 5 a.m. He was so scared and running on an autopilot that he just, tried all the passwords that he's using for all the online services in there. And it's about also people we trust. So for the attacks, for my attacks to work, it's always in the first stage, who would that user trust? And I'm always trying to act as an outsider. I don't use personal information about my colleagues because I know them well. I know, who has a dog named Fluffy or whatever, but I don't use these kind of things. I just try to attack someone from the outside would. And what I believe works really great is a mindset, or a combination of 3 kind of different mindsets. And combining tech, marketing, and UX together, that's for me the killer hackers mindset. And to wrap up, like I mentioned, hackers nowadays are not like from movies, probably 20 years ago. If you remember the episode of NCIS, the double hacking, 2 people typing on one computer, it's not like that these days. And to sum up, I believe the most important thing for your colleagues and for you to be aware of is common sense. Because why the hell would the CEO share something on the last pass with a customer care person? Or why would the CEO target specific customer care person from the team of 25 people with a specific request? And the common sense is, for me, the most important thing, because in all of those examples, there should have been something fishy in the mind of the user, because it was not something that happens every day. I believe that it's definitely better to be safe than to be sorry. And I love to educate my colleagues, would also love to educate your colleagues, because we weren't aware of all these things just a couple of years ago. The bad thing about it is that you have to be right all the time. You have to be secure 100% of the time. From the point of view of me as an attacker, I have to be right just once. Just one slip, one person out of 130 we are now, and you're done. I also found that it's a lot of fun to do this. I encourage you to try these things legally, because it's a lot of fun to discover new things, new devices, new vectors, new approaches to things. And I believe in delivering the 100% user experience, but also not to fish everything out of users, but to use it for good. And it's a mindset that we have in our company. And what I would like to take out of it is that it's just not about secure code, like the $1 million cluster, but that it's primarily about people. And I would love for you to try these examples yourself to help your users. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas. Very interesting, slightly frightening, but yeah, we should be smarter. So, coming to the questions. The first question, were there any legal repercussions regarding your phishing email exploits?
Fortunately not. I was fortunate that our compliance and legal officer, she's really thoughtful, and in our contracts, probably for the people that got exploited, no. We we just try to explain them that this should not really happen. When it happened to the second time to the same user, it was like more serious. Unfortunately, it never happened the third time for the user. For me, there were no legal repercussions because we have it in the contract that we can legally hack people. So, yeah.
Okay. The 30% that didn't fall for your plan, did they realize that the emails were bogus or did they just ignore them entirely?
I think half and half. Because it's funny for some of our developers. It's I exploit myself like 2 days after the attack for everyone to be aware of that. And some of our developers were like, oh, I haven't read my email for 3 days. So they were not even, they just ignored it. But to be honest, I never hacked someone from the development. Never. I don't know why. But it never happened to me.
Okay, another interesting question. Have you ever been hacked yourself? If no, what do you think allows you to stay that way? If yes, what did you learn?
To be honest, I have no idea if I was. I don't know. I know that my passwords have been leaked. If you know the site, haveibeenpwned.com, which is great. I've been there like 15 times, so all the wonderful services I'm using are leaking my hashed passwords. But nothing that I'm aware of. And I just try to think that why the hell this thing would need my password, or what happened with, for example, our accountant. I built a site that was triggering a Google login, and our accountant, he authorized full access to his Google Drive to me with just 2 clicks, so not even the password. He just authorized the Google Drive, and I could scrape everything out of that with his login token.
Mm-hmm. How did your phishing emails get past the Gmail filters?
I think mostly because I don't use, it's like with the viruses and antivirus software, it's just detecting patterns. Patterns that are happening, patterns that are frequent. But for my attacks, it's always something that's new and that's probably Gmail hasn't seen, because it's specific to our company, it's specific to our people, and it's like, it's not a pattern that you can easily detect, I would say.
Mm-hmm. What did the owner of the eShop change after being hacked?
He completely got rid of the old system.
He changed the password.
Sorry?
He changed the password.
Yeah, yes, he did. Fortunately, he did change the password. And a couple months after that, they also completely got rid of the old legacy system they were using. And right now, fortunately, and hopefully, I will test again. Because it's, I think it's like a month since they launched the new store. I will try to play with it as well, but it did look like they are finally have something like CSRF tokens and things like these.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Are your slides available somewhere?
I can make them available. I can make them available on my site, which is my first name, surname.cz, so lukášhurych.cz, and I can make them available later today.
Mm-hmm.
I will write it down, not to forget.
Yeah, please don't use that to do anything illegal.
It's just an inspiration to, be more secure and for your people to be more secure.
Okay, perfect. So who made the artwork in your slides?
I can tell you that. That's a great question. I don't remember the guy's name. But it's a pack of illustrations that's available with a wonderful non-commercial license. Here it is. Or it's not. Julian Birdford. JulianBirdford.com. There's.
Okay.
It's a wonderful kit that has everything that you neat in there. So a lot of illustrations that I found really useful to tell the story.
Interesting. JulianBradford.com. Okay. Can you explain how did you get past the two-factor authentication?
Sure. I waited. I waited for someone to enter the password, and when that person did, I was like sitting in the office and was waiting for the notification from Firebase. And when that happened, I took the password and I used it to log in, and it triggered the real login for that user. And the user received the SMS code, and on that user's device, I just showed the, enter the SMS code. And the user entered the SMS code, except the SMS code was not for his session, but for my session that was happening in the background. And the same went for the apps. So if you use the Google app, it's even easier because you just, yes, that's it.
Cool. What has been the funniest situation so far?
I think the real-time keylogger still wins for me. Like putting your computer next to your colleagues and seeing them. I just zoomed the font, so they were like literally seeing every character they typed. That was probably the most funny situation. And also the situations where I hired messengers to deliver some packages. It's really funny to watch it because you know what's in there, you know what's coming in that package, and you're just watching the colleague from behind the corner, what's happening. Yeah, and probably the third one is dropping the USB sticks on the street. I didn't want someone random to take those USB sticks because they were nasty and it would be illegal. So I was just hidden behind a car on the street, and I was like lurking and seeing if really one of my colleagues picks it up. So.
All the great people who were trying to help find the girl. Did somebody offer you money to hack somebody?
No. Is this an offer?
Are your colleagues better at their security practices now?
Yeah, it's hard for the new colleagues because they were not able to go through the 15 or more attacks. But for the colleagues that went through them, it's definitely much better, and I am happy and sad at the same time. Love it. I'm happy and sad at the same time because in the last attack I had 0% success rate, so I was not able to get a password from anyone in my last attack, which made me really happy, but sad, and I'm feeling challenged now. To create some new ways.
Do you recommend people to not open that link?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
If you have a PC that you can destroy and does not contain your personal data, you can.
Okay. What's the funniest password you've seen?
Oh God, what was that? It was like a motivational quote. And it was something like, you can do it, Tiger, today, or something like that.
Interesting. What is the weirdest question you've been asked? This is a weird question.
Yeah, probably this. Weirdest question. I think once I got asked if I got private XXX rated photos from someone. It was also pretty weird. I did not, if you want to know.
Okay. I think we've already answered the question about you being offered money.
Ethically, yes. Unethically, no. But again, is this an offer?
Okay. I don't know if this is the question.
Me neither, to be honest.
But I guess that's it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.